Okay, this is the remediation of test decimals and fractions, Unit 2. We're going to go over some of the processes, some of the step-by-step processes that you need to know to be successful on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions and decimals. All right, question 1. Jackson wants to divide a 2/3 pound box of trail mix into small bags. Each of the bags will hold 1/6 pound of trail mix. How many bags of trail mix can Jackson fill? So this particular question says, okay, there's a gentleman, he has a box of trail mix. And basically, he wants to invite some friends over. So he has a total amount of trail mix of 2/3 of a pound. He wants to divide it evenly. Each bag will be 1/6 of a pound. How many bags of trail mix can he fill? So division is the following. It gives you the total of what you're dividing. That will be your first number. That will be your dividend. That will be the numerator right here. He's dividing the trail mix. He's dividing it 1/6 of a pound of trail mix is what each bag will hold. So you have the total divided by each bag, and that will equal how many parts or how many bags he can make. So the following steps. When you divide fractions, these are not mixed numbers, so you simply keep, change, flip, and you can simplify before you multiply. Look at the 2 and 1. You cannot have a number that goes evenly into 2 and 1, excuse me. And there is, when you look at the 6 and 3, what number evenly goes into 6 and 3? 3 does. So what you do is you take that 3 and you divide both numbers by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So our new equation is 2/1 times 2/1, which will give us 4/1, which gives us 4. The answer is 4 bags. Now, if you did it the other way, which is not to simplify before you multiply, and you said 2/3 times 6/1, and you got 12/3, this would be an improper fraction. To turn an improper fraction into a mixed number, or in this case it's going to be a whole number, you divide. 12 divided by 3, and the answer is simply 4. Okay, now we move on. The next question was about, and everybody take a look at this, because you have to understand the steps involved in division of fractions. And this is also simplifying. Simplifying before you multiply, and then if you go the other route and simplifying after, turning an improper fraction into, in this case, a whole number, but most times a mixed number. The next question was a procedural and conceptual question also. And the next question asked, how does dividing mixed numbers compare with dividing fractions? Well, let's look. Let's take dividing fractions. Let's say 7/8 divided by 3/4. You would keep, change, flip, and then you would multiply or simplify first. I look here, I can't do anything to the 7 and 3, but the 4 and the 8 becomes 1 and 2, and this would be 7/6, which would be 1 and 1/6. If I were to take a mixed number and divide by, let's say, a half, I would first turn this improper, and I get 9/8 divided by a half, and then I would keep, change, flip. So the process is exactly the same, except that you must first change your mixed numbers into an improper fraction. That's the only difference between dividing fractions and mixed numbers. The next question was simply a multiplication question that said 2 and 3/5 times 5/7. The first thing you must do for all your operations is turn your mixed numbers into an improper fraction. And you would say 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13. Always keep the denominator the same. This one is already a fraction. In this case, I would absolutely simplify before I multiply. 13 and 7, there is no common factor between 13 and 7, but 5 and 5 simply turn into ones because 5 is the greatest common factor, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. So now I have 13 times 1 is 13, 1 times 7 is 7. An improper fraction into a mixed number, I divide. 13 divided by 7 is 1. My 6 becomes my new numerator, and my denominator stays the same. So the answer is 1 6/7. To check it, 7 times 1 is 7, plus 6 is 13, 13/7. So the answer would be 1 6/7. The next question was simply a subtraction question. 9/20 minus 1/4. Step 1, when you're not dealing with mixed numbers, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, you must find a least common denominator. We find the least common denominator by looking for multiples. The multiples of 4 and 20. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. The multiples of 20, 20, 40, 60, 80. And we look. The first factor, the first multiple that comes up is 20. So that now becomes our new denominator, and we're subtracting. Now what we have to do at this point is create an equivalent fraction so that we can have common denominators. So whatever I do to this particular denominator, I have to do to my numerator. So 20 times 1 is 20. 9 times 1 is 9. So that doesn't change. But when I move over here, my old denominator was 4. It's now 20. So I had to multiply this by 5, this denominator. So I need to multiply the numerator by 5 so that I can create the equivalent fraction of 5/20. At this point, you keep the denominator the same. 9 minus 5 is 4. So now I have 4/20. I want to simplify by simply finding one number that goes evenly into the numerator and denominator, and that would be 4. So I divide both by 4, and I get 1/5. So the answer is 1/5. The next question basically asks, if we could take a peek at this question. I don't know if you could see it, so I'll read it to you. Perry connects a blue garden hose and a green garden hose. So you have a blue and you have a green garden hose. Okay? And you want to make one long hose. The blue hose is 16 5/10, and the green hose is 18 25/100. How long is the combined hose? When you combine something, you actually add them together. So you have to add 18 25/100 plus 16 5/10. When you add, not only must you line up your decimals, but you must put your numbers in their proper place value. You have to keep the hundredths with the hundredths, the tenths with the tenths, the ones and tens. Now we can add a 0 in there just to make everything look much neater. And we say 5 plus 0 is 5, 5 plus 2 is 7. Bring down my decimal. 8 and 6 is 14. Carry the 1. So the answer is 34 and 75 hundredths feet long. It's simple addition. When you're combining, you're adding. The next question. The next question was simple multiplication. It simply said 3 and 9/10 times 9 and 34 hundredths. Step one when you're multiplying. First, count the number of digits to the right of the decimal and make a note of it. Here I have 1, 2, 3. Make a note of it. Step two, multiply as if the numbers are whole numbers, as if there are no decimals. 934 times 39. There's no adding of zeros. There's no lining up of decimals. Just multiply as if they're whole numbers. 9 times 4 is 36, carry the 3. 9 times 3 is 27, and 3 is 30, carry the 3. 9 times 9 is 81, and 3 is 84. Put a 0 right there. 4 times 3 is 12, carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Add 9 times 3 is 27, plus 1 is 28. Still no decimals anywhere. 6, 2, 4, 8 and 8 is 16, carry the 1. So now, at this time, I go back into my original expression, and I have the number 3, where I made a note that there are 3 numbers to the right of the decimal. I take my pencil and I put it to the right of the whole number, because the decimal is always to the right of the whole number, and I will move it in 3 times. And the answer is going to be 36 and 426 thousandths. Next question. Division. 59 and 5/10 divided by 3.5. The first number always goes inside the division house, which is the dividend. The second number, the divisor, always goes outside. And we read it 59 and 5/10 divided by 3 and 5/10. When you have a decimal outside the house, you've got to make it a whole number. So you'll move it once and make it a 35. And then the number inside the house, you have to move the decimal the same amount of places. In this case, just once to the right. Bring the decimal up immediately, and then divide. And you're done with the decimals. 35 goes into 5 0 times, but it goes into 59 once. And I get 24. I'll bring down the 5. Now, what I'll do in my head is I'll estimate. And I'll say, I'll make this a 30. And I'll say 30, 60, 90, 120. And then I'll go 30 times 5 is 150. 30 times 6 is 180. 30 times 7 is 210. And 30 times 8 is 240. So it's either 7 or 8. I'm going to start with the lower one first. And I'm going to say 35 times 7 is 35. 21 and 3 is 24. So I'm right on. And that's 0. So the answer is 17. I don't have to worry about the decimal place. It's already there where it needs to be. I stay neat. I keep my columns and rows neat, because if you don't do that and you're not neat in division, you're liable to make a mistake. The decimal might end up somewhere where it shouldn't be. So the answer was 17. The next question was simply a division question, no decimals. 3125, or 3,125 divided by 25. The 3125 goes in the division house, the 25 outside. This is the divisor, the dividend. This number is a whole number. There are no decimals. We just multiply. Excuse me, we just divide. 25 doesn't go into 3. I like to just represent each number in the house with a number on top of it. 25 goes into 31 once. 25 times 1 is 25. I get a 6. I'll bring down the 2. 25 goes into 62 twice. 25 times 2 is 50. I'll get 12. I'll bring down the 5. And this is simple because 25 is easy. 25 goes into 125 5 times. And the answer is 125. And the last question. Take a look at that. We need to know how to do that. The last question. Which answer is equivalent, which means equal in value, to 8 plus 16? Which answer is equivalent? Now we have A, 2 quantities 4 plus 8. We have B, 4 times the quantities 4 plus 8. We have C, 3 times 4 plus 16. And D, 4 times 2 plus 4. Now, let's first talk about what equivalent is. Equivalent means the same value. Might look different, but same value. Let's figure out what the value of 8 plus 16 is. 8 plus 16 is equal to 24. So we need to find an expression that is equivalent to 24. Since there are no variables here, we can literally just do PEMDAS, and we could say, parentheses, 4 plus 8 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 4 plus 8 is 12. 12 times 4 is 48. 4 plus 16 is 20. 20 times 3 is 60. Not equivalent to 24. And 6 times 4 is 24. So simply by knowing that PEMDAS says parentheses first and then we'll multiply. But you need to understand, if there is no operation in between the parenthesis and the number, you're going to multiply whatever's in the parentheses by the number outside the parentheses. We also should know the distributive property says 2 times 4 plus 2 times 8, which literally gives us 8 plus 16. That's the distributive property. We take the number outside the parenthesis and distribute it to both numbers inside the parentheses. And we look at this one, 4 times 2 plus 4 times 4, however you want to do it, parentheses or not, gives us 8 plus 16, which is also 24. So you need to understand the distributive property in this particular question. You also need to know the order of operations. And these are things that we've gone over in class. So that was 9 out of the 10 questions. There was another question, but there were no problems throughout all my classes with the addition of decimals, the grid question. So I'm going to leave that out. There's your 9 out of the 10 questions. If you have any questions, roll the tape again, pause it, look at the work, and that's it.